Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. If you are joining us live, my name is Abigail Barnes. I am your host for this show today, the Productive Wellbeing Show. And today's episode is episode number 44. And I'm so excited. We have got our second ever panel show. And today's panel is, what does self-care have to do with productivity and well-being? So as you're joining us, let us know where you're joining from. If you've got any questions during the panel, put the questions in the comments. Give us some emojis, because these are like virtual high fives for all of us where we can't see each other, be with each other, etc., etc. And like it, share it, comment on it, and get as many people as you know to watch, because this is going to be such an awesome conversation. We've got about 45 minutes together. Let me introduce the amazing panel. So today I'm joined by Dinah Liversidge, who is a speaker, an author, a coach, and the founder of No Box Thinking. We've got Jessica Gardner, who is the founder of the Assistant Room. We've got Lauren Bradley, who is the founder of The Officials. We have got Claire Brumby, who is a coach, an author, and a speaker. And finally, we have got one man on the panel today, Paul Kelly, who is the founder of Strictly Recruitment. Now, they're all going to be asked the same two questions. And at the end of this, they will let you know where you can find out more about them, because like the 5 or so minutes that each of them are going to get is not enough time for you to get to know these amazing humans. So without further ado, I'm going to ask the first question to Dinah. And the question is, what does a self-care routine look like for you? And how has COVID-19 changed it? So Dinah, over to you.
Thank you, Abigail. Good morning, everybody. I'm one of those people who's worked from home for a really, really long time. And so the big changes that are taking place at the moment don't have as big an impact on my routine as they have had for a lot of you. My daily routine has become integral to my wellness. And like so many of us, I learned the hard way what happens when I let my routine slip. So I'll share with you some of the things I do every day and a bit about why I do them. I have a rare condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which means I'm in pain from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. That's just been my reality all my life. And I decided, as I lie there in the mornings, kind of letting my body gently come alive before I leap out of bed, that the thing I could do every morning was decide, am I going to have a day where I think about that, or am I going to choose my mood for the day? And so choosing my mood is my first step every day in deciding how my wellness and my self-care is going to look. So this morning, for example, having done a huge amount of work in the garden yesterday, when I woke up, I decided my mood today was going to be one of expectation. So what do I mean by that? Well, it means I'm going to look for something exciting to happen. I'm going to be open to the idea that things I wasn't expecting could have a really positive impact on my day. So, for example, the expectation about the show this morning, instead of feeling nervous or anxious about doing something live with people you don't know, I thought my expectation will be that we're going to have an amazing time because it's with Abby, so of course it'll be cool. My expectation can be about expecting to find opportunities in things that normally would have got me down. My mood gets to decide the kind of day I have. So I think if we think back to how recently we were talking about Mental Health Awareness Week, if we're more aware of our mental wellness, we can influence that by saying my mood today is going to be one that opens me up to positive possibilities. Now, the second thing I do, and I did this for about 5 years, stopped when we moved from London, and this is the thing that's changed for me with the current situation. I restarted a group on Twitter. which is #TheBreakfastClub. And from 7 until 8 every morning on Twitter, somewhere between 8 and 30 people, depending on which day of the week it is, come together and chat. And we lift each other up. We're very honest about, you know what, not every day is a good day at the moment. People will share what they're struggling with, and others are instantly there to say, I empathize, I'm listening, I see you, share how you feel. Let's not all pretend it's all rah rah. Let's have those moments where we have to say, it's felt tough today. And surely one of the things that comes out of that is people say, well, here's something I do for my self-care. Maybe it will help with yours. And then the last thing that I would share on this is the importance of those times you allow yourself. All of us at some time or another do that thing where we think, oh, that's not important. That was just time for me. I can give that up and do this thing I'm being asked to do. I never, ever cancel time that I have blocked for myself. There is an amazing, wonderful, very simple book called How Full Is Your Bucket? I cannot tell you how important it is that we top up our bucket. You can't keep giving to others if you don't top up your tank. And I know for a lot of us, that's a struggle. The whole concept of putting others first is a way of life. So you can struggle to do that. But when you don't do it, you can't give in the way you want. So I never, ever break the appointments in my diary that say tree time. We live in a small woodland. So for me, me time has become tree time. And I go and I have an appointment with my trees. And I can't do something else at that time, because that's the time when I top up my energy, when I allow myself to be, often when I just sit and don't focus and just allow my thoughts to take me where they want. So that's my biggest tip about self-care. Never cancel the time that's marked for you in order to give it to someone else. Long term, it will bite you on the bottom.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. I love it. Tree time. And just to kind of reiterate around what Dinah was saying of you can't give from an empty bucket or an empty cup. Today is day one of our 28-day self-care challenge. And those of you who have joined the challenge, let us know in the comments, because we're all doing the challenge. All these guys are going to do it as well. And it's all about learning how to start a simple routine with 8 minutes a day of what you give to yourself. And that's going to be the second question in this. So Paul, on to you then. What does a self-care routine look like for you, and how has COVID-19 changed it? And maybe why do you even have a self-care routine?
Okay. Well, thank you. And thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. What a tough act to follow after Dinah's answer. So my self-care, it's a bit of a backstory, really. My self-care routine kind of started, I would say, in 2011, really. That's when it became quite prominent to me that I felt that I had to make certain changes in my life. Growing up and as a young man and in my late 20s, 30s, like most males, I lived quite a hectic lifestyle, juggling work, going out, living in the city, and all the trappings that come with, kind of working in central London and everything else. And I didn't really kind of take any time to consider, the actions of what I was doing or anything else. And things kind of got progressively, going out more and more and more. And one morning, I needed to go to the doctors for something that was completely unrelated to what I'm about to tell you. But my girlfriend said, whilst you're there, just ask the doctor to have a look at that mole on your back. So went to the doctors just before I was leaving. Said, do you mind just having a look at my back? And he was like, wow. He phoned up the hospital, and then within 20 minutes, I was at Barnet Hospital, basically having something taken off my back. Long story into a short one, it turned out that I had skin cancer. Had 5 operations around that, and it was a real kind of life-changing moment for me, because it kind of gave me a time to reflect and realize that actually you have to start looking after yourself here, Paul. And when I was younger, I was always into my fitness and sports and what have you. So I started going to the gym, and then somebody said, do you want to go and do an obstacle course race? Which I went to, loved it, enjoyed doing these obstacle course races, but then realized the running side of it was really letting me down. And then I started going for runs, and recaptured my love for running. And it's really kind of not taken over, but it's become so prominent in my life now. I run 4 times a week, and for me, it's a real savior for me. And I was talking to somebody on a house party over the weekend who's just started running, as a lot of people have done over the last couple of months, and they say, oh, how can you go and run for 2 hours? And I explained that I kind of find it as a meditation method for me, and I get to a kind of point that I'll be running, and then literally half an hour would just be lost, and it really helps me. And I see that if I miss one of my runs or anything, and I go kind of 3 or 4 days without doing that kind of block of exercise, it definitely alters my mood. And things, having 2 young kids is testing. Sometimes the fuse is perhaps shorter than it should be. In work scenarios, things tend to top up as well. So it's something that much like tree time, I block that out for myself 4 times a week to have that release, because as Donna says, it's so important to have that self-care mechanism, and I'm a huge believer in that. And as I say, circumstances got me to kind of realize that I should be looking after myself, and that's the journey that I went on. In terms of the differences since COVID-19, I think that my mood, in actual fact, has improved quite massively, to be fair. And I think working from home is something that I always said that I would never be able to do. And having the flexibility to know that I could do some work between 7 and 9, go for a run, do something with the kids, come back. So the routine has changed a lot, but the fitness side has stayed much the same. But I would say that in actual fact, it's my kind of mood and productivity has kind of soared really since this has begun.
Amazing. That is exactly the thing I want to hear. Self-care improves productivity. It's almost like I'll pay you later. Guys, as we're going through these sort of questions with the panel, if you've got any questions for them, we'll probably have time for 2 questions at the end. So just put them into the comments. And thank you so much so far, Dinah and Paul, for sharing your stories with us. So Claire, over to you. What does the self-care routine look like for you, and how has COVID-19 changed it? So what have you had to do as a result?
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me on, Abigail. Well, my routine has changed a whole lot, because my go-to self-care was and still will be swimming when I can get back in the water. So I've got quite a lot of similarities to pull from both what Dinah has said and Paul have said, really, in terms of Dinah has been working from home. I've been working from home, for the past 4 years. But the challenge I've found with COVID is I've got now 2 teenagers at home with me, which brings its own challenges. So my natural day has got longer, because I'm wanting to build time into the day to be with them. So I'm finding, in terms of productivity, I'm having to change my day, because I'm working I'm working sort of like 2-hour chunks, and then breaking that down, then having time with the kids, and having to break things down in that way. So whilst I'm used to working from home, it's changed in that aspect. And then in terms of the self-care aspect, that's changed dramatically, because swimming for years and years has been my go-to. And I took up swimming for lots of reasons quite a few years ago now, some for physical health and some for mental health. So from a physical health point of view, I nearly died back in 2005 with a blood clot on my lung. And I took up swimming as a way to increase my lung capacity and to get overall strength. But also that was a wake-up call in terms of, which is where I said I can think back to what Paul was saying. You have this, and obviously with you, Abigail, as well. You have these wake-up calls, and you just realise actually, and back to what Danny was saying, how full is your bucket? When that happened to me, I would say my bucket was not only empty, it was leaking. And now I make sure that my bucket is really, full to the brim as much as it can be. And that's what swimming was doing for me. And so to have swimming taken away for the past sort of like 9 weeks has been like, oh my goodness. And as Paul was saying, you're a little bit more afraid than you perhaps would have been. So I've replaced it with walking. I can't run, unfortunately, because I've got a long-standing injury on my ankle. We won't go there. So I've been walking a lot. And actually, I've never been one for walking. I've never been one to do things at a slow pace. When I get in the water, I swim at a fast pace. I swam the channel in a relay team a couple of years ago. I do events. I'm a fast-paced swimmer. So to walk at a pace which my ankle will allow, I think has actually helped me from a self-care point of view, because it's allowed me to think more. And, the meditative state that Paul's mentioned, that's normally where I go when I'm in the lake or I'm in the water anywhere. But I found that I've been drifting into that sort of zone whilst I've been walking. And, so it's given me some gifts in terms of helping me find that space without having to go into the water. But don't get me wrong, can't wait to get back into there. But in terms of my productivity at home, I've been chunking my day. And the thing that I really find helps hugely is to have a consistent morning routine. And that's what I always do have. I do journaling in the morning. I make sure that I have a list of like 3 key things that I want to achieve in the day, because I think if you've got an ongoing list, often that can overwhelm, and then you can feel unproductive. So I think, right, okay, what are the 3 things that I'm going to, and they could be teeny tiny, but some could be huge. So as long as I've got a routine in the morning to say, right, okay, this is what I want to achieve at the end of the day. By the end of the week, obviously I've achieved that many things. So my productivity, goes up in that sense. And yeah, so things have changed for me, but the way I get through it is to adapt into a new routine. I think routine is really, really key. I think if you've got the routine, that's when you can fit the self-care in and the productivity in. So I think it's all about, really, I believe, understanding yourself and working with what why the way you're wired as a person, and not fighting against that and going with that. So yeah, so I think, have I answered the question there, Abigail, or did I just go off on a complete tangent ramble?
No, you totally answered the question. And yeah, the open water swimming that Claire does, like in cold water, kudos to you. Thank you so much. So I just want to do some shout outs, because we have got an international audience here watching live with us, guys. We've got Karima from Munich, Salima, I can't remember whereabouts you are now. Is it the Middle East? We've got Beth Arazi, who is in Croydon, Julia Schmidt from Oslo, Anne-Marie Hand, whereabouts are you joining us from? And we've got Andy Parks. Guys, love getting your comments, and also any questions, drop them in the comments as well, and give us some emojis. These guys are doing some great sharing here. We need some emojis. Anne-Marie Hand is joining us from Liverpool. Love it. Amazing. Right. So with this question, over to Jessica. What does a self-care routine look like for you, and how has COVID-19 changed your self-care routine world?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my kitchen. I think what I would really like to start my answer with is making sure that everybody realizes that self-care is individual to all of us. So we shouldn't really buy into what Instagram and social media tells us we should be doing to focus on our self-care, because it's individual to everybody, and what works for one person isn't going to work for somebody else. So COVID-19 has massively changed absolutely everything about what I do from a 9 to 5 basis and beyond. So before COVID-19, I would have 6 or 7 meetings every single day. I would be doing calls at the weekend. I would not only be interacting with people in the UK, but the assistant room is now 18,000 people strong in our network, and they're global. So I have a responsibility to really keep on top of everyone in New York, South Africa, Australia. So that means I don't have a schedule. It's absolutely nuts. And when I used to be a PA, I spent 10 years looking after ultra high net worths in fashion and hospitality. And I was really used to just working consistently without a break. And that's what I used to be like up until 3 months ago. And I think for me, what's happened with COVID-19 is it has removed that routine in effect. It has removed that schedule. So I have been thrown into the complete unknown. The way I was describing it the other day is, when you go on holiday and you just think, I've definitely forgotten something, but I just don't know what it is. And you're trying to figure out what you should be doing. And you've got something niggling in the back of your mind, but you don't know quite what it is. I went from having all of those meetings, that huge to-do list, trying to balance all of, the responsibilities that I have on a global basis, to having nothing. Everything literally disappeared overnight, and it was a huge, huge shock to my system. So there are 2 things that I really, really do to focus on wellness. 2 months ago on the Assistant Room Instagram, we started our daily affirmations, which we basically teach people how to take 20, 30 seconds in the morning just to really kind of reaffirm who they are and the positives in their life, so that they can start their day in a really, really effective way, and obviously be as productive as possible. Because I find my mornings, if I don't have a great morning, it completely throws me off for the entire day, and I just can't get back on track. Saying that, I've never been someone who can kind of stick to a habit or stick to something that I try and commit to every single day. My brain's just all over the place all the time. So trying to get really easy things in place that I can do, that I enjoy, that are really quick, take 30 seconds, is the reason why the daily affirmations have really worked. And we've seen a huge response to how those daily affirmations have helped other people. And it's such a small thing, but it has created ripples and really helped people kind of embrace who they are a lot easier. So it's not only something that I've found a benefit from, but I've seen how other people have benefited from it. And then the other thing I do is I really focus on my nutrition. So I love cooking. Before I became a PA, my dream was to go to cordon bleu school and become an amazing pastry chef. My mum is part Italian, so she makes the best profiteroles you've ever tasted in your entire life. But it didn't work out for me. I never went. I don't regret not going. I have an amazing life now. I'm so grateful. I wouldn't be here with you guys today if, I hadn't been an EA for 10 years and then started the assistant room. But so nutrition is absolutely key to me. So on Sundays, I spend half the day prepping things like a tonic that I drink every morning that is a literally simple concoction of grated boiled ginger. Doesn't sound very nice, but it is. Grated boiled ginger and juices of lemons, and I drink that every single morning as a shot. I make homemade soups that I can have throughout the week, that I can just grab out the fridge, and I know that I'm getting loads and loads of nutrition, not anything that's out of a packet, to really, really keep me going. And I just make sure that I treat my body as well as I can, whilst also making sure that I can keep the fast schedule and the demanding workload, not only time-wise but emotionally-wise. I can make sure that those 2 things work together. So that's really, really important. But Abby, you and I were talking the other day, and I feel like I went into COVID-19 one person, and I will have come out of COVID-19 a different person, completely different. And the business has also gone through that transition. So nutrition and daily affirmations are sort of my anchor in effect, that I know I've got there, so that no matter what happens, no matter if, you know, things start to get a lot worse or they continue for the next 2 months, I know that I've got something that I can really rely on to keep my mental health and my productivity and the way that I run the business on track as much as possible.
Love it, love it, love it. And guys, we have had people on the show talking about nutrition and it's linked to mental health, and also affirmations. Yeah, that is not necessarily something that we've covered yet, but check out Jess's community for that, for sure. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I want your recipe for the tonic, because I think that I need to take my lemon water to the next level. And finally, we have got Lauren Bradley with us. Sorry, Lauren, we can't see your name under the banner. Not very good there. So Lauren, same question as everybody else. What does your self-care routine look like now, and how has COVID-19 changed it for you?
Okay, so I'm going to be a bit of an outlier here in that I am terrible at self-care. Have always been, will always be, and it's just sort of something that's I've accepted, but I protect little things in little ways. I also am different in that I feel like the world is catching up to me now in COVID-19. I was always very busy. I had young children. I wanted to learn. And so I needed something that was accessible online. And so now everyone's running to watch webinars. Everyone wants to digest all this information. I have never been busier. I was in a call until 2 a.m. last night talking to Sydney. I've got 4 calls, webinars today, 1 every day the rest of the week. Lost my voice several times now. And so I am not being very good to myself at the moment, because I'm kind of rolling with this self-development wave, because I love it. It makes me hum. So in that way, it's kind of a self-care. So I'll start over with what some of my challenges are. I'm bootstrapping a new business that was always a community. And so that has its own stresses. I have 2 daughters, 7 and 3, who are here all the time. They never go anywhere. There's no locks on the internal doors, only the bathrooms, because it's a new build and we haven't had time to do that. So I'm not as lucky as Paul, who was able to lock his door. My 3-year-old will probably come in here at some point. I did an Instagram live a few weeks ago where she woke up from her sleep and she was so out of it that she came in, screamed, and just weed all over the floor while 45 people watched, like bloody murder scream. It's my life and I'm rolling with it, right? And so I'm very lucky, very, very lucky, in that there's a boom in business. And that suddenly everyone is kind of catching up to me, who's always loved self-development, who is, especially because I work with admins and assistants where we have large gaps in our knowledge. We're not often afforded training budgets. And so I always wanted to be practical and affordable. And now, you know, that's like, couldn't be more in demand, right? And so I love someone in here said, it was Jenny. So Jenny said that she does gardening. And tree, what is that? Tree life is, or tree time is me time. Okay, so I think we're all getting a theme here, which is we have certain times where we just zone out, where we are enjoying what we're doing, but we're not being stimulated in a large way. So we are not maybe watching television. That doesn't count as self-care. Just having that minute to pause, in my opinion, doesn't count, because your mind is actively following something else. To me, that time is my bath. So many officials know I leave them voice notes. The water is sloshing in the background. They just know that's when I have all of my best ideas, and I pick up the phone and I just want to tell somebody something, or I've had an idea about their situation, or I've had an idea about something. I screamed to my husband the other day, honey, I'm having a bath idea. Come up here, I need to talk to somebody. Where I've designed in the time of a bath, excuse me, there's my voice going again. An entire academy with an incentive program. Like, I want to change the way. I have so many ideas. I'm like, Jess, like, we went from being assistants to business owners. And it's like, you know, when your parents say to you, you won't know until you're an adult, or sorry, you won't know what it's like until you're a parent, right? I didn't know what it was like until I was a business owner. I feel for all the CEOs that I worked for, all the leadership. We had a very specific function, which is to organize that chaos. But when it's somebody else's mental chaos, now it's my mental chaos. And I've got so many ideas. If someone just handed me a company of 100 employees, I could just run the world, to be honest, with all the ideas I'm having in the bath. And the reason why is because I'm zoning out. There's no stimulus. And it's basically doing the same as meditation or people that do adult coloring or gardening or running. It used to be running. I have an issue with my knee, but it was the one time no one's asking me for anything, because I go from work where people are asking me for something to my own business where I'm trying to provide something for someone, to my children asking me to wipe their bottoms and do different things. So one time it's just me and there's a lock on the door. And your brain starts to actually connect these synapses. All this information that we are getting in a day is way more than any cave person would have had in their entire lifetime. And we're getting this daily. It is an explosion that is hard to digest. And you need that time. Scientists actually don't know why we sleep. It seems counterproductive because we can't protect ourselves to actually go completely unconscious every single night. So if you're thinking back to caveman days and that you had to sleep in together, you would have 90-minute REM cycles, but it didn't make sense. And they can't actually see that it restores our body that much. Is the same as just relaxing. It's the mental part of it. It's that part where you go deep into that substate, and your brain starts to say, okay, I got all this information today, and you have all this information already, and it starts making all these connections. And dreams are basically like a computer playing out scenarios, right? And so that's what kind of happens in the tub. That's me trying to basically taking myself to a state just like that, but sort of an active state where I'm aware of what's happening. These scenarios are kind of playing out, and then I can actually, instead of forgetting about them when I wake up, I can actually pull them out and remember them. And so, I mean, I really do. Like I'll tell someone if I don't know something, we're having a discussion. So let me bath on it. Let me have a bath, and I'll come back to you in a day, and I'll remember it. So I protect that, and that is sort of that's where all my best ideas come from. And I make sure that I do 3 baths a week. I shower and stuff, but I do 3 baths a week, and they're long ones, 2 hours minimum. I was like, I'm going to be in there for half an hour. Never. And then the other one is music. I'm absolutely deeply in love with music. I met my husband on MySpace from his music page. Like, I can't tell you how much I'm literally in love with music. And I need a hype playlist. So I have at the officials, I'll post it on Instagram. I'll post it on in the group later. It's not safe for work. And sorry, Paul, it's very female empowering, but if you are open-minded and empowered, I think it's worth listening to. It just gets me going. So when I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, I need a boost, I'll tell my Google Assistant, it's going to listen to me now if I say that, to play something, and I play my playlist. Then I'm like, I'm ready, I'm charged, I'm ready to go, and it refreshes me and it lets me keep going. I'm in this kind of stage where I'm going from being a martyr to a model. I was raised by a martyr, to no fault of her own. That's what a lot of women are conditioned to be, is that you break yourself for everyone else. And I'm trying to break the model martyr and be a model for my 2 young daughters. When I say they can do whatever they want to be an entrepreneur, they can, if they want to be in politics, they want to be artists, whatever they want to do. But I want them to see how hard I work to get where I am, and that I'm just as capable of anybody else. And so I want them to see that I'm a model, and I don't want to break myself and show them that means sacrifice. It means some sacrifice, but it doesn't mean that I have to sacrifice my well-being, my time with them. And so I'm trying to make sure of that. I don't know if this is the year I'm going to quote Glennon Doyle in the book Untamed, everywhere. And she has that line in it. And if anyone has not read it, get it right now. She's incredible. And she's really just breaking down the conditioning that we've all had as women and pulling those layers back. She went from being a mommy church blogger, Christian blogger, to she's now married to Abby Wambach, the female soccer star. So she was married to a man, Christian mommy blogger, and now she is married to a woman, and she's this great activist. She still has the same following because she's always been herself. She's just pulling back layers to discover herself and getting to the true self. And I'm working on that same path. So those are the things I do. I'm not perfect at it. I'm being adaptive. My daughters come into my webinars all the time. Everyone knows who they are at this point. I'm really surprised they're here. And I just try and be kind to myself at the same time. But that's kind of my routine. And it's been the same before and after COVID, essentially.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. The comments are going crazy. We've got some more people to shout out to. We've got Lorraine joined us from Colchester. Samina, is in the UK. We've got Chris from Glen Falls, New York, USA. Who else has said where they're from
I just want to point out that Jenny said she also gets them in the bath and on the loo.
Yeah, and I want to say, if anybody else gets their ideas in the shower, in the bath, on the loo, let us know in the comments, because I for sure definitely do, and I'm sure that the rest of this panel do as well. So we've got one last question, and then if you guys have got a question, put it in the box, and we will take one or two if we've got time. We've got about 15 more minutes left, so this is kind of a more of a speedy question for our panel. And you may have answered it already, but just reiterate this for people. What happens if you skip a day of your self-care routine? Does it feel off? Do you feel stressed? Dinah, if you don't go and spend time with the tree, what happens?
Great question. I love this question. The first thing I would say on this is, if you miss a day, please don't sweat it. It's amazing how many of my clients, when I'm coaching people, go over and over re-punishing themselves for not looking after themselves 3 days ago. And actually what we do when we do that is we carry on not looking after ourselves. So let it go. That's the first thing. Second thing, stop comparing your life and your reaction to this crisis to anybody else's. I absolutely love what Lauren just shared with us, because so many of us can relate to that. And I mean, I look back on my 30s and 40s when self-care was not part of my agenda. Does that mean I was somehow failing or being a bad mummy? Of course not. I was doing exactly what Lauren was talking about and proving to my daughter that we can do anything. But here's the thing. When I don't do it now, I know what the knock-on effect is, because I didn't do it in my 30s and my 40s. And in my 40s, I had 8 heart attacks and a quadruple heart bypass, and I died twice. And I'm not going to do that again. And it was my choice. And that's the really first step for me in all of this. If I don't do my time with the trees today, that was my choice. I have to own it. Accept that today I decided not to put my health where I should have, and then move on. So tomorrow, I don't start the day by saying, I can't believe after everything I went through, I haven't learned to look after myself, because that negative message just reinforces maybe I don't deserve to put myself first. So start every single day by saying, you know what, today is a brand new day. I have chosen and accepted my mood for the day, and I'm going to give myself time today to look after myself. And that can also be setting a great example. So I know that my 30-year-old starts her day every day with her husky. They go out of the house and they walk for half an hour, no matter what. And when I ask her, do you do that on your really busy days? She says, well, of course I do, Mum. I'm not you. So she learned that just, Mum showed me as much how not to do this as she's now showing me how to do this. But she's embraced it as a much younger, and by the way, entrepreneur who's owned a virtual assistant business for 13 years. So she has had to learn, I can't look after all these other people if I don't start my day with my husky and get that time. And the other very quick thing I would say, on the days where you miss it, make up for it. The minute you think that thought of, oh, I didn't do that thing today, I promised myself I was going to do. If you've got time to berate yourself for not doing it, you've still got time to do it. And one of my favorite things to do in a moment like that, where I realize, again, going back to what Lauren touched on, I sing. I've sung in the shower since I was tiny. I'm now absolutely thrilled to be part of the One Profession, One Voice choir through Executive Secretary. If you look at their brilliant page, Helen Rees does a choir with us every Thursday evening, and you can go back anytime you want. The joyful thing is you only hear Helen and yourself singing. You don't hear everybody else, and they don't hear you. So no excuses. But that music, that interaction, the moment you realize I have forgotten to look after myself today, stand up and sing a song. There's your time. You will have done it. And don't beat yourself up over it. You're not, it's so easy to give up a new routine by saying, oh, look at me, I couldn't even stick to it for 3 days. I'm useless. I won't bother. It is never, ever at that point. Every day you can say, I didn't do it yesterday, but today I'm going to do it. Hope that helps.
That is amazing. And Dinah's kind of reiterated this point about when it comes to self-care, when it comes to any part of our life, common sense isn't common practice. What I mean by that is what we actually know will make us feel better. For some crazy reason, we just don't do it. We make up 50 million reasons why we're too busy, why I can never do it, why someone else can do it better than me. We kind of get addicted to the I'm not good at this, so I'll never be good at this, and I don't have time. And what happens is your life is like a loyal dog. What you believe, you will create in your reality. What you say becomes your truth. So if you want to change it, which is why Jess's point about doing the affirmations, if you want to change it, you have to change it by talking about what you want, not what you don't want. And it's absolutely unbelievable. I keep saying to friends and family, be careful what you wish for. I mean, some people would say that what is happening to us right now is kind of, in some ways, what we're getting. We were all saying we were too busy, life was going too fast, I never got time to see my friends and family, I needed time for my health, I'm never at home. And I'm not saying that like we've manifested it, but just be careful what you wish for. You create your own reality with your thoughts and your words every single day, whether you realize it or not. Okay, moving on to you, Paul. What happens if you don't go for one of your runs? How is your daily life, your routine affected by that?
Yeah, definitely. Before I answer that question, I just want to say there's some amazing opinions and some great advice and some great stories here. And it's incredible to be part of this and listen to people's routines and everyone being so open and honest. So I just wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to say that. With me, much like it's been reiterated quite a bit here from various different conversations, I find that when I'm out doing my runs, that is 100% where I get all of my best ideas from. And after that is when I'm at my most productive. A lot of people have seen what I've been trying to achieve over the last couple of months with the introduction of a new network that I put together. And during my runs, that network in my mind has basically gone on to kind of take over the world, essentially, with the different ideas that I've been having. So I 100% find my productivity goes through the roof. And, thinking back to when I was in the office every single day, I would run at lunchtimes and Mondays and Wednesdays. And I would see that on the days that I don't go, or if I missed it, you'd get to like 2-3 o'clock, you'd start to feel that a little bit more lethargic, and your mind would wander off. So it keeps the levels of productivity there from a business sense 100%, keeping myself active. From a physical sense, I can often feel the difference. I feel more lethargic, I feel more tired, and then of course the kind of mental aspect of it is, everyone knows the endorphins that are released when you exercise, whatever. I do feel that smaller things start to kind of get to me that little bit more. The small stresses that everybody has in their life, they for some reason feel that little bit more magnified. So which is why I kind of try and do what I can to kind of mitigate those as much as possible. But I also think that, I do echo what Dinah was saying, that actually it's no point beating yourself up about it if you can't do it, and because then that just makes, that's the complete opposite to self-care, isn't it? And it just makes matters so much worse. So there is definitely a difference in me, and it's a release, and just my zen. If I don't go for a few days and what have you, that's when I can see the kind of equilibrium being a bit all over the place, should we say.
Amazing. Sorry, I forgot I was on mute there. Claire, what happens if you don't do, because obviously you've had to totally change your routine, but so we know that if you don't swim, so what happens if you don't go for the walk and if you don't sort of take some time out for you?
Well, I get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed because it's like there's no, so what it feels like to me, it feels like, how to explain it? It's like a pressure cooker. And if there's no release for that valve, which was swimming, which is now walking, that internalizes and I can't think as effectively. I get more overwhelmed. I don't feel I can keep all the plates spinning with my kids and my business and everything. But that said, I've got real experience now with tapping into my intuition. So if for some reason I am resisting the walk or I'm resisting something, I'm thinking, well, what is this intuition telling me? Is it time to, maybe the time will come to replace the walk with something else. Maybe I'll get on a bike, or maybe. So if I'm resisting in some way, going with the new pattern or the new routine that I've developed for myself, usually it's my intuition telling me that there's something else that I need to then move on to. So I don't beat myself up. I'm thinking, right, okay, I'm self-aware enough to think, why am I resisting this? What else am I going to introduce? What else is going to help me more out there? And that happens to me because I do get very bored very quickly. And the thing is with the swimming, there's always another challenge to do. Yes, there's always another walk to do, but it's just not the same. So I'll get bored of my routine. So I need a routine of a sort. However, I do get bored. So I will be, always looking to amend and move that. So if I don't have something, so I guess what I'm saying is if I'm not feeling challenged in some way to do whatever it is that keeps me in this routine and keeps me performing, then I'll amend and move it. But I definitely need to have something, otherwise the wheels do come off, and like I said, the pressure cooker can pop. So it's very important to keep that routine.
Amazing. And guys, if any of you who are watching us can identify with this pressure cooker, totally, for me it is exactly the same. And yeah, Dinah, if I don't, my inner self is literally screams at me, go for a walk, get out, get up, do some yoga, meditate, whatever it is, the toolbox of tricks. Jessica, what happens if you don't eat well, if you don't practice your affirmations? How does your sort of day go? What's impacted?
Sure. Well, so obviously, because mine is all about making sure that I feed myself properly and I've got my lemon and ginger tonic in the morning, I'm not within myself physically, I'm not going to be able to keep myself healthy. If I don't provide myself that nutrition and if I don't give myself that support, the knock-on effect isn't something that I'll just feel now, it's something that I will feel for the rest of my life going forward. So the way that I sort of think about it is with regards to those small things, I've put a very minimum amount of commitment in for a huge impact and a huge reward going forward, because those tiny things don't take a lot of time. And as I said, I'm useless at habit. I break things all the time. Dinah, exactly what you said, don't beat yourself up. The amount of times that I have tried to start something and it's not worked or I've given up has been endless, absolutely endless. So that's why sticking to those small things really, really works for me. But through trial and error, again, obviously not having a 100% success rate with maintaining my well-being, what I found is that it's not just the short term that I see an effect on, but it's also the long term. And long term for me is like 6 months time. So I very much identify as an ambivert. And I don't know how many people have heard that word before, but it's a mixture of a introvert and an extrovert. And it depends at what time you get me. Claire, everyone has, that's good. Obviously, it depends what time of the day you get me. It depends what day of the week. It depends what happened yesterday as to how I'm feeling today. And so that means as well that I can get very, very, very easily distracted. And if I don't have those small things that I can really rely on, I get distracted from my short-term goals and my long-term goals. So my short-term goals will be what my to-do list is that day. If I don't start my day right, I might not finish what I want to get done that day, or what I know I need to get done. I've still got things on my to-do list that I had on my to-do list a month ago that I just need to crack on with, and I need to give myself that opportunity to do that properly and support myself in the way that I know I need to support myself to make that happen. Long term, the way that I kind of describe it, and there have been a few things in COVID-19 that have really helped me recognize this even more, is that if I don't treat myself properly, I get distracted by things that don't matter that affect the long term. So I get distracted by people's opinions. I get distracted by what I should be doing instead of, or what I think I should be doing rather than what I know I should be doing. I get distracted with things that kind of distract me from my long-term vision of what I want to be and who I want to be and what I know my business should be and how that should look like in 6 months' time. So it's about drawing everything back, focusing on, you know, what works for me, and making sure that I try my best to incorporate that on a daily basis with everything that I do. And the daily affirmations are a huge help. We do them every single morning on Instagram. It surprised me actually how much of an amazing impact that gave me, just by spending 30 seconds on breathing and saying something really amazing. Like, there was something we put up the other day. It was like, you can't keep everyone happy. You're not a 10-inch pizza and a bottle of wine. Things like that, just little bits and bobs, just funny things that don't really make much sense, but they're just somehow really relatable. So yeah, I don't know if that answers.
Amazing. Well, thank you. No, that was awesome. Now, guys, I am aware of the time and upcoming meetings. So Lauren, final question, and then we'll go with a quick whip through of where we can find out about all of you. And as I said at the start, these guys have so much depth, so much more that they can talk about. So if you resonate with anything they've said today, go find them and follow them on social media and connect with them as well. Right, so the final question for you then, Lauren, what happens if you don't take a bath, if you don't have the right number of baths in the week?
So I smell, I think. But as I'm showering in between, obviously. So you were saying that you kind of have the shout, like go for a walk, get outside. Mine is more like a slow boil and a really tired voice in my head. So I've learned enough times now, and I work from home. I'm very lucky that at 2 o'clock, if my body says take a nap, I can take a nap. I can't do it all the time, but I can calculate, if I take a nap now, in 1 hour, I can be able to jump up and attack what I need to attack, or I'll drag my hiney for 5 hours and be up till 2 a.m. because I'm never quite getting it done because I'm just too exhausted. I can calculate that, and I've had enough experimentation with napping and baths and things like that to know that I can stop, and that is the more effective thing to do, is to stop. It's going to take me 1 hour or maybe 2 hours, because I have the 1 hour break or whatever it is that I need to do, the mental break I need to do, and then an hour to attack instead of 5 hours of dragging my behind, trying to get this done, beating myself up. It just doesn't work. And so I noticed that if I ignore that voice, then I'm sitting at my computer at 1 a.m. and I still don't have the thing that I need to get done. And then it takes me 10 minutes because I'm like, come on, get it together. And I get it done. And I go, it took me 10 minutes to do that. And I've been sitting at my computer for 5 hours. Why couldn't I just kind of sort this? And I think it's interesting what, I just wrote this down because I thought it was interesting what Jess said about being in, I don't know the word you use, but I consider myself, I read a book on being an extroverted introvert. And so anyone that meets me, they think I'm an extrovert. And I am. I actually, a little bit of both. I get energy from being in a room. Like, my friends always ask me, are you drunk? Like, if we've been out for a drink and I'm still on my first drink, they're like, I can never tell because I get drunk from the environment. I love when I'm humming and getting to know people. But the introvert part of me has to come home, has to recharge, need to shut everybody off. And I need to honor that. And I thought that was really interesting what Jess said, and I totally get that. And the other thing that Jess said that was interesting was that her mother made amazing profiteroles, and that I consider self-care. So if she wants to send us a box, Jess, I'm all about it. But yeah, that's kind of my answer to that.
Awesome. Right. Okay. Now we just have the quick 30-second whip around. Let's start with you, Dinah. Where can we find you on social media? And obviously, as I said, guys, they're going to leave all their details in the comments.
Okay, so 2 places to find me: at Dinah Liversidge on Twitter. And I've been tweeting for 11 years, so I'm very active there and I love it. And the other thing is facebook.com/no-box-thinking. And I'd love to engage with you.
Amazing. Paul, where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm super active on LinkedIn. My handle is just Paul Kelly on LinkedIn, and you'll see my face pop up. And I mentioned it before. We have a big growing community called the Business Support Network, which is on LinkedIn and Facebook. So if you just search for that, you can find us there.
Awesome. Claire, where can we find you?
Okay, so my web address is obviously at the bottom of the banner there. You can find me on LinkedIn and all social platforms, and on Twitter and Facebook, places like that. I am at the Claire Brumby.
Amazing. Jessica, where do you hang out?
Well, so you can find out where all of the places we are: Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, on www.theassistantroom.com. And also, if none of you have checked it out yet, we have a podcast for PAs and EAs where I interview PAs and EAs, and you can listen to Spotify or iTunes just by typing The Assistant Room in.
Amazing. And Lauren, where can we find you?
So you can find us at jointheofficials.com, or I'm really active on Instagram at jointheofficials, and please connect with me on LinkedIn, DM me. I talk to everybody. It's self-care to me. It's my hum when I talk to assistants. So please reach out.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much to the panel. Thank you to all of you for all of your comments, for joining us live, and for those of you who are going to be watching this on the replay. Any questions, leave them in the comments. Follow up with the guys independently. And this whole panel was launching our 28-day self-care challenge, which started today. We'll leave the link for you to join in with that. These guys are all going to be in the groups as well and sharing their stuff. The idea with the 28-day challenge is to get people started with a self-care routine, and from as little as 8 minutes a day. And obviously, these guys have shared their own stuff that they do. The challenge, all of the activities in the challenge, we share 8 with you. These are things that I will do at least 3 to 4 of on a daily basis. So that's kind of my chance to share my self-care routine with you and to do it with you over the next 28 days. And it's absolutely free to join in this challenge. So thank you so much to the panel. Thank you so much to everybody who's joined us. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, stay alert, and keep washing your hands.